Shalom, my friends. Today I'd like to tell you Rabbi Akiva chapter 3. This is more towards the end of his life when he was executed by the Romans, and this is following the Bar Kokhba revolt. Rabbi Akiva is one of the Asara Haruge Malchus, one of the 10 martyrs, the 10 sages who were martyred and murdered brutally by the Romans for their Judaism. Contrary to popular belief, the Romans were not very nice or good people. In fact, they were terrible to the Jewish people. And it is interesting how many dictatorships who are in control of so much in the world, yet what they feel threatened by is Jews studying and observing Torah. And this happened throughout the ages, including in communist Russia under Stalin and others, where their biggest threat they considered amongst the Jews was their studying of Torah. The Romans also placed a decree that nobody should teach Torah in public. All the other sages went underground. Rabbi Akiva was different. He took out big ads in the newspapers of the time, and he said, "My yeshiva is open. Anybody who wants to come to learn can just make their way and study Torah." There was a ganef by the name of Pappus. Rabbi Akiva was arrested, as he was, for being a ganef, and they were both thrown into the same cell. So Pappus turned to Rabbi Akiva, and he said, "I don't understand. Why didn't you follow the others and close up yeshiva at least in an open way and go underground?" So Rabbi Akiva said, "I'll give you an analogy. There was once a fox. In Talmudic times, they used the fox a lot for their analogies, who is walking across by a river, and he sees this fish darting back and forth, swimming like crazy. And the fox calls out to the fish, and he says, "Mr. Fish, have you seen yourself in the mirror lately? You look so exhausted, flitting back and forth, running around. You're not going to make it long." So the fish says, "What should I do? I have to outswim all the nets that are trying to catch me." So the fox says, "Well, I don't like the way you look. Your color is too terrible for words. You need a break. You need a rest from all this running around. My suggestion is, come back with me to my lair. I've got a beautiful sofa there. You got Netflix and everything you may want. Just take it easy for a week or two. And then when you've recovered your energy, you'll come back and carry on swimming in this river." So the fish says, "You fox, you think you're so sly, you think you could outsmart me. I know your shtick. All you're trying to do is get me to come with you so you can eat me. I am a fish. Our life is dependent on the water. We have to stay in the water. That is our very life. The minute we leave the water, we die. So we have no choice but to stay here. The only thing we can do is try and outswim the nets. Try and survive here in spite of all the dangers." And Rabbi Akiva turned to Pappus and he said that the Jewish people and their Torah study and the observance of mitzvahs is similar to a fish and water. Our very life is the Torah and the mitzvot. As we say, Ki heim chayenu ve'orach yamenu, This is the source of our life. The only hope we have is by clinging and studying and making the effort in Torah mitzvahs, because this is our water. And no matter what danger we have, we can't leave it, because then we are doomed, certainly. So that's why Rabbi Akiva said, I kept my yeshiva open, because this is our very life. The only hope we have is that we outswim the Romans and their edicts. Sadly enough, Rabbi Akiva did not succeed in outswimming them, and he was caught by the Romans. And they decreed that he will be executed in the most painful manner possible. They heated up hot iron combs and began taking off the skin of his body, basically, with those hot iron combs. They began torturing him by removing all his skin. My friends, have you ever burnt your finger on a stove? You know how painful it is? I hate to imagine. I can't begin to imagine what it must be like to get these hot iron combs stripping off your flesh. And the students were with him as well. And they took a look at his reaction. And they saw he was reciting words with a smile on his lips. And they said, Ad kan, so far, Rabbi Akiva, how can any human being smile at this time? Even the Roman executioner said, are you a sorcerer? You don't feel the pain? And Rabbi Akiva's reply was, oh yes, I feel the pain, but I have something else that even surpasses that. Ever since I was taught the Shema and began reciting the Shema, I was taught that it says, V'ahavta Hashem Elokecha, you must love Hashem your God, b'chol levavcha, with all your hearts. And the two bases means with your good inclination and your evil inclination. You have to direct your life, your energy towards loving God. U'b'chol nafshecha, and with all your soul, which means even if God takes away your soul in a painful way, you must never stop loving him. U'v'chol mi'odecha, with all your might means even with all your money. If God takes all your money away from you, don't stop loving him. U'v'chol mi'odecha also means whatever way he treats you, whether you find it good, whether you find it difficult, you must never stop loving him. So he says, since I began saying the Shema, my prayer was that if I ever reach a situation where b'chol nafshecha, that God takes away my life, and no matter what way he does it, even the most painful, that I never stop loving him. But you know, there's a far gap between the theory and the practice. Just to give you an example of the gap between theory and practice, there was a college professor who had a lecture called The 10 Commandments of Raising Children. Then he got married and had a child, and the lecture changed to the 10 Suggestions of Raising Children. He had another couple of children, and he stopped giving the lecture altogether, because there's a very wide gap between theory and practice. Many couples find that out. When they're going out and they're discussing their future and their plans and their values, it sounds so beautiful in theory. In practice, it might be another thing altogether. So Rabbi Akiva responded and said, I have felt that I must profess my love to God, even if he takes my life. This was my whole ambition. But now it is the practice. He is taking my life, and in the most torturous, painful wound possible. And I search through my heart, and all I feel is love for God. Should I not be smiling? Should this love not surpass all the torture and pain? And the Rebbe, in discussing this story, tells that there is a difference between Rabbi Akiva's unbelievable heroism and ready to give up his life for Hashem, what we call Mesiras Nefesh, total devotion, and total self-abnegation, giving yourself up for godliness in comparison to Abraham. Abraham also gave up everything for God, including his only son at the Akedah. He said the difference is, Rabbi Akiva said, all my life I have been waiting for this moment. Even though it's self-abnegation, there is still a self involved. Whereas Avram Avinu, was ready to go on Mesiras Nefesh, on self-sacrifice for God, but he didn't take himself into the picture. Whatever was demanded, that is what he would do. My friends, a lesson we can take from Rabbi Akiva's life and his passing as one of the Asara Haruge Malchus, the 10 holy martyrs, is how much we should be ready to sacrifice and give for God. But thank God, we are not asking to give up our lives. We are asking to give up our desires, our wishes, when they run contrary to what the Almighty wants. Let us rather sacrifice not our lives to die for God, but let us sacrifice that which is around us to live for godliness and for Judaism. And I conclude with a point. It was those Romans who seemed the victors over the Jewish people. Can you imagine when the Romans were taking the Jews into exile? Here's this big gladiator, a strong person with all his helmet, his chains, and all his armaments and all that, being the most powerful. And he's standing over the lowly slave of a Jew with a whip in his hand. And the Jew's looking up at him. And the Roman says, "Was guckst du? What kind of a chutzpah do you have to look like this?" And the Jew says, "Because I know we're going to win." He says, "Was sagst du Kopf? I destroyed your temple. I've taken you into exile. Israel is no longer. The Jewish people will be no longer." And the Jew says, "You know what? It'll come the year 2020. In Johannesburg, in New York, in America, wherever you are in the world, Rome will be a nothing. There'll be a little museum called the Colosseum, and that's all that will remain of it, with a few gladiators posing out there asking for money for when you take pictures. The Jewish people will be alive. Our Torah will be alive. We will be surviving, and we will be studying because Am Yisrael Chai. We have outlasted all our enemies, all the mighty powers. And let us remember, it is the Torah, Ki Heim Chayenu Ve'erach Yamenu, which gives us our life. Let us ensure that we, our families, and our future generations stay connected to the Torah and mitzvahs, because our very survival depends on it, and we will be victorious until the great day of Moshiach and redemption speedily. Thank you.